Hello everyone. I am now entering the topic of the angle of elevation and the angle of depression. Angle of elevation and depression is applicable in solving the problem of height of an object and the distance of an object. It is a process whereby we calculate the distance of an object or height of an object all right. This calculation is very vital in engineering calculations or other areas where heights and distances are very important. Then before you can now measure the angle of elevation, first of all, you have to consider your eye level. You have to consider your eye level. What do I mean by eye level? For example, if this is a human being and this the head of the human being, the person has two eyes, all right? Now, the eye level of the person is the normal horizontal line. Normal horizontal line from the eye of the person. It will be a horizontal line from the eye of the person, which will measure your height from your toe to your eyes. That is your eye level, all right? Now, if you now want to measure the angle of elevation, all right, it is a process where you will now be looking up. It is the angle above the eye level. It is the angle above your eye level. Is now the angle of elevation. Now, this is the eye level of this human being. Then angle of elevation is the angle above it. Now the person try to see something here. Then the person will now try to look up. All right. So the angle between the normal eye level to what the person is looking at is now the angle of elevation. All right. Now, that is angle of elevation. Angle of elevation. Now, we also have another angle, which is angle of depression. Angle of depression will now be the angle below the eye level. The angle of depression will now be the angle below the eye level. It will now be angle below this eye level. Okay, if the person's eye level is this, then the angle of depression will now be like a kind of the person is looking downward, trying to see any object here, right? So the angle of depression will now become this one. Angle of depression. So, and in calculations, it normally involves triangle. It normally involves a triangle. Okay. Now look at this thing. If I want to calculate for the angle of elevation, for example, it has formed triangle. It has formed triangle, which I can use any method I've taught you concerning triangles. Normally, we use trigonometric ratios in calculation of it, since the triangle always involve right angle triangle. That is triangle that has one of the angles as 90 degrees. And this triangle has one of the angles as 90 degrees here. So in majority of the calculations, we use trigonometric ratio in calculating it. So now we can calculate the height of this object, which will be from here to here, or we can now also calculate the distance of this object. Had it been the object has a foot up to this place, the foot of the object reaches here, for example. We can now calculate the distance from the eye level from this man to this place, which will be here. We now give a distance. Or we can also calculate the distance to the height. We can also calculate to the distance from this person now to the elevation of the face of this man. We can also calculate the distance from here to here, if it's this we want. We can calculate the height, or we can calculate the horizontal line. Even in depression, it's always the same thing. It always forms a triangle, which here has resulted 90 degrees to the angle. So if the person is trying to see any object here, for example, we can calculate the distance from this person here to here, or we can calculate the distance of if it has a foot up to this side, we can calculate the distance from it to the foot of it, or we calculate the height of this object from normal eye level to the place where it is. So now this is just introduction part of it. I have up to 7 to 8 questions, different ones concerning this topic, which I will treat in this my page or channels. Okay, so make sure you subscribe, follow, like the video, comment on that, share it for many more interesting and technical questions which will come under this angle of elevation and depression. Thank you so much as you watch, and God bless. Bye.